Jesus at home in your heart. The living room. The first room he saw in the home of my heart was a living room. Nice room, he said. Thanks, Lord. It's one of my favorite spots because it's relatively quiet and secluded. I'll meet you here every morning of every day, he said. Before the day gets going, I'll meet you here in the early morning, and we'll talk about what's ahead. When I walked in Israel, I needed instruction and help daily from my Father. So morning by morning the Father spoke into my ear, giving me the tongue of the learned, that I should know how to speak a word in season to him and that is weary. Isaiah 54. And now I'll do the same for you. What followed was great. I could come into the living room, a fire would be crackling in the fireplace, and Jesus would be there, ready to talk to me and listen to me. It's a great way to start the day. As time went on, however, things got busy, or so I thought. Rushing out the door to a meeting, I caught a glimpse of him, just sitting there. And I realized I hadn't met with him, for a number of mornings. I stopped in my tracks and walked sheepishly over to where he was sitting, thinking he'd lecture me. But he didn't. There was a smile on his face and a sparkle in his eye, and he said, as I was saying, continuing the conversation we had shared the last time we met, and I understood then truly that there is no condemnation to those who are in Christ Jesus. Romans 8:1. He just continues to make himself available morning by morning to help me speak wisely and to navigate life successfully. This study. As the morning drew to a close, Jesus said, "What's in that room over there?" "Oh, that's my study. Come on in." He followed me in, and I noticed he was looking rather intently at the books on the shelves. "Look, Lord," I said proudly, "I've got all the latest bestsellers. Winning Through Intimidation. Watch Out for the Number 1. I'm Okay, You're Okay. Dressed for Success and Awakening the Giant Within." "Do these books work?" he asked. "Not really," I answered. "That's why I just keep collecting more." "How about a book trade?" he asked. "Sure, Lord. What do you have in mind?" "You give me your books, and I'll give you 66 books, bound in a single volume. One that'll make you unashamed as you study to show yourself approved unto me. 2 Timothy 2:15. One that comes with an incredible guarantee that if you meditate upon it day and night, you'll navigate life prosperously and successfully. Joshua 1:8. He took my books, I took his, and suddenly my study was filled with a book that would intrigue me for the rest of my life. The family room. "What's that I hear down the hall?" Jesus asked. "That's my family room," I said, opening the door. My kids stopped their playing and rushed toward him. "Back off, you guys," I said, laughing. "I think I've heard that before," he said, when some other disciples tried to keep their kids away from me. See Matthew 19:13. "Allow them to come to me." So they tackled him, and he wrestled with my kids on the floor. They had the time of their lives. Then he calmed down a bit and began telling them stories. I could see my oldest son nod his head in agreement, and a smile on his face, my youngest daughter also with a smile on her face. Suddenly, a peace enveloped in the room that was usually so rambunctious and so disorderly and chaotic. "This is amazing, Lord," I said. You've altered this room radically." "That's why I asked you, as head of the house, to let me into the family room." He said, "I've altered your kids, your marriage, your home, if you will build a family altar to me. You see, more than any other group of people, more than your congregation or your elders or your friends, your wife and your kids are your primary disciples. So bring your family together and learn of me. There's nothing more important you can do." The recreation room. Hearing a knock on the door, I opened it to find my buddies. We walked down the hall into the recreation room. "Lord, you wouldn't like it in here," I said. This group is really rowdy. So I'll meet you in the living room in an hour or so." The boys and I grabbed our pool cues, turned on the radio, and began doing what we did every Tuesday. But this time it didn't work. The jokes just weren't as funny, and the conversation suddenly seemed shallow and empty. Even the lyrics of the music bothered me. After an hour or so, I heard a knock on the door, and it was Jesus. He began to talk with my buddies, and I was absolutely amazed because they all loved him. Oh, well, a couple of guys got upset and stormed out, but I soon learned later they weren't really my friends after all. They just wanted to use me for my pool table. I learned that Jesus is the life of the party, in the truest sense of the word. I also learned that I'm free to do anything as long as I have him with me, because he changes the atmosphere. Now, if I go into a party and the party changes me, then I must leave. But if the party changes and people start thinking about Jesus as a result of my being there, I am free. And I discovered that Jesus Christ had spoiled me, for I had too much of him to enjoy the old spots. So I've learned to bring the Lord with me to all my recreational pursuits, and to watch how he infuses them with his life. The dining room. After working up quite an appetite, I said, Lord, let's go get something to eat. We went into the dining room and sat down to my usual meal. This is what you eat? The Lord asked. Every day, I answered. Really? This is the way you satisfy your appetite? He looked at the large glob of cotton candy on my plate. This is the way I try to satisfy my cravings, I said. I must admit, however, that although it looks good, when I take a bite, there's just nothing there. That's why I follow it with a hot fudge sundae. I eat the ice cream and the hot fudge, the whipped cream, and there's something there, all right. But every time I'm done, I feel sick. So I decide never to have another one. Then about 5 hours later, I think another hot fudge sundae would taste pretty good. So I dish one up again, but although I feel full, I really never feel satisfied. After hearing this, he went into the kitchen and came back a few minutes later with a most interesting meal for me. A little cup full of juice and a little piece of unleavened bread. This is my body. Eat of me. This is my blood. Drink deeply, he said. Something happened at my table that evening. It became the Lord's table, and it became incredibly satisfying to commune with Jesus, feeling satisfied in a way I never had before. I suddenly understood that what he meant when he said, Whoever drinks of the water I shall give shall never thirst again. See John 4:14. Brother or sister, if you're thirsting today, it's because you've gone back to the old watering holes. If you're feeling empty and troubled, it's because you've gone back to the old ways. Whoever drinks the water of the world will thirst over and over again, for it will never be enough. But whoever drinks of the water Jesus gives will be satiated at last. The workshop. What's behind that door? The Lord asked. Well, that's my workshop. I don't go out there very much anymore, I said, opening the door to find some unfinished wooden planes and cars on the work table. I've lost interest in these things, I said. Besides, I'm not that good at woodworking. I'm a master carpenter, he said, and I can give you some help on these projects. So he gave me some advice in putting them together. Then he said, Now take these toys, the hobby you've been pursuing, and give them away. So I grabbed my little toys, found some kids at the park, and said, You guys want some planes and cars? Their eyes lit up, and suddenly my hobby made sense. So that's what you meant, Lord, when you told us that in the measure we give out, it will be given back, I said. See Luke 6:38. People garden, paint, remodel, bowl, and collect things only to get bored and go on to the next hobby. If hobbies, however, were used for someone else, what a difference it would make. You who like to garden, mow someone else's lawn for free next Saturday, and leave a note on the door saying, God bless you. You who like to bake, make some cookies and give them to someone in need, in Jesus' name. You who like to bike ride, how about taking a kid who doesn't have a dad on a bike around a lake? In this way, biking, gardening, and baking have meaning, because you're in the workshop using the talents and interests God gave you to share with others. Use those talents only for yourself, and you'll be boring and shallow. But give them away, and you'll be blown away with blessing. What a difference the Lord has made in my heart. The workshop has meaning again. The family room is not so chaotic. The dining room satisfies the appetites and cravings of my heart. The study is rich with wisdom and insight. But one day, the Lord said to me, From the day I came in here, I've smelled something foul. It's making me ill. Not because of how it affects me, but because I know it's poisonous to you and your family. There's a toxic dump somewhere in this house, and I've determined it's behind that door right down the hall. Oh, Lord, I said, that's just an old closet. I'm going to take care of that sometime. I know it stinks, but you'll grow accustomed to it, trust me. I've had it for a number of years, and I don't even notice it anymore. Can I have a look, he asked. No, Lord, I said. I've given you entry into every room in the house of my heart, but That one closet is mine. I know it stinks, but it's mine. You're welcome to go anywhere you want and do what you wish in every other room, but that closet belongs to me." With that, he slipped away into the farthest corner of my home. And suddenly the family room lost its life. The study became tedious. The old songs began to be played in the recreation room, and the dining room table held only cotton candy and hot fudge sundaes. After several days, I said, "Lord, I don't want you stuck off in a corner of my house. I want you to move around freely. I need you in my family room. I need you in my study. I need you in the living room. But I can't deal with that closet, Lord. I don't know what to do." "All I'm asking," he replied, "is that you agree with me that it stinks and that it's got to go. I'll do the rest, but you must give me your permission." That's what confession is. Confession is simply means to agree. That's why the Apostle John says if we confess our sin, he'll be faithful and just to forgive our sin and to cleanse us from all unrighteousness. 1 John 1:9. I had forgotten how good a house could smell. I was reminded of the home of Mary, Martha, and Lazarus. Mary poured ointment on Jesus, and John records that the fragrance filled the whole house. John 12:3. In other words, the whole house smelled like Jesus. "Lord, you've been such a wonderful influence in this house of my heart," I said. "From now on, it's your house, and I'll be the guest. You be the owner." Smiling, he said, "I have a better idea. Now that you've given me your house, let's get to my house. I've been working on it for 2,000 years. I can't wait to show you what I've prepared for you." Once I gave him control of my home, his work was done. Now he could take me to his home, and that's a whole new story. I can't tell it to you because eyes have not seen and ears have not heard the things God has prepared for those who love him. 1 Corinthians 2:9. It's a story beyond description. That's where we're going, gang. You, who by faith have allowed Christ to dwell in your hearts, to be at home in your hearts, will soon find yourself at home in the place he's preparing for you. In the meantime, while we await that day, we can experience a bit of heaven in our own lives presently as we allow him to be at home in every room of our hearts. May the Lord help us to give him the keys to every closet, the title deed to the home in its entirety. May we be those who say, "Come on in, Lord. It's all yours." Thank you.